Hi, everybody. I'm Essex County Commissioner Brendan Gill, also honored to be the chair of the Montclair Dems. We're excited to present the interviews with Mary Alice Williams. This year, there is no more important election across the country than the race to become the next governor of the state of New Jersey. I'm proud to lead this great statewide organization made up of over 12,000 volunteers who help to elect our Democratic candidates up and down the ballot. In order to educate our members, as well as the public, the Montclair Dems is proud to produce a series of long-form, one-on-one interviews with all 6 Democratic candidates for governor. We are privileged to have legendary broadcast journalist Mary Alice Williams conducting these interviews. Today we're joined by Mayor Ras Baraka. Mayor Baraka is serving his 3rd term as the mayor of the state's largest city, the city of Newark. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Alice Williams and Mayor Ras Baraka.
Thank you, Brendan. I'm here with Mayor Ras Baraka of Newark. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Why do you want to be governor?
It's a good question. I ask myself that sometimes. But, I think it's time for us to build a broad-based coalition across the state, across race and zip code and religion and nationality, how we identify. It is the winning coalition that got Barack Obama to be the president twice in a row. It is the only way that we have advanced in this country with that kind of broad-based coalition. Is some of the issues that we face in New Jersey is going to take all of us together to get them resolved. Big, heavy, intractable issues around housing affordability, around healthcare affordability, sure, around childcare affordability, and pushing back against what's happening in the White House at the same time. This is a chance to do it and do it now.
What challenge as Newark's mayor did you face that positioned you to be able to govern this very diverse, complicated, expensive state?
Absolutely, almost everything, right? So, the housing issues that we face in Newark are statewide issues. Issues around the environment, around particulate matter in the air, around clean water, around flooding. We face those in Newark. We have to mitigate those issues, reducing healthcare costs and finding opportunities for families to be able to get childcare without breaking their bank. All of the things that I think the state is wrestling with, from crime to tax credits for families and young people, we struggled with and mitigated in the city of Newark.
And how did you do that?
Well, we mostly do it by partnering and collaborating with the private sector, with community-based organizations. For example, issues around homelessness. We've reduced street homelessness by 57% because we have an organization called Newark Alliance, which is made up of all of the corporations in the city, all of the educational institutions in the city, and city government. And we come together and figure out these complicated and difficult issues collectively. And I think most of the problems that we talk about, from reducing crime, violence to 61%, is the same coalition that helped us do that, to bringing businesses to our city, from corporations to small businesses, and helping them grow and advance. The same alliance helps make that happen. So collaboration, mostly, and finding the dollars to make it happen.
Finding the dollars.
Yeah.
Affordability is the buzzword of the 2025 campaign.
Yeah.
Property taxes are up, utility costs rising by 20%.
Insane.
How do you make living here affordable? How do you make living here affordable?
There's a few things you do. One, you have to build more affordable housing, right? You have to put a cap on rents, at least for a period of time, and build more affordable housing until that begins to happen. You have to regulate these LLCs that are coming in and buying up all of the property at one time, artificially raising the prices. We have to get healthcare costs under control, right? So the state has to figure out reference-based pricing to reduce healthcare, to allow the state and other municipalities to pay a certain percentage above Medicare. They can't pay 200, 300% of Medicare. If we only paid 150 cents above Medicare, 150%, we would save the state $1 billion in a couple of years. So these are the things that we have to do to reduce costs, right? We have to combine school districts, right? We have to push back against home rule so people can begin to share costs and share school services to reduce people's taxes. And we have to find a way around to advance earned income tax credits or advance Medicare and Medicaid to help people pay for these costs, right, that are skyrocketing
But
out
I'm
of control.
not hearing you say is that you're going to raise taxes on the wealthy?
No, we are.
Or that you...
That's the primary thing that you have to do. And I think this environment makes it necessary for us to raise taxes on the wealthy. I don't think all the candidates are going to say that because they don't want to say that, right? Because when people say they want to give tax breaks, I'm a mayor. I know you can't give everybody tax breaks. If you give tax breaks to millionaires, you can't give it to working people because we don't sell pies out of the back of City Hall, right? Our money comes from ratables, commercial taxes, property taxes, hotel taxes. So if you give all these people these tax breaks, so Christie gave away tax breaks to the super wealthy. The Democrats never repealed them. So you're talking about $15 billion or more of tax breaks that we need. We need that money now. So what's happening in the federal government and at the state side economically justifies us saying, look, we need our money back. We need that money in our budget, right? And we need to turn the tax code upside down or right side up as well.
But is that a state concern, the tax code, or does that have
that's
to
a
change
state
at
concern.
the federal level?
No, that's the state concern. The state has the right to deal with its own state income tax, state property tax. We can do that here in the state of New Jersey. Flip it so that the super wealthy aren't paying less of their income on taxes than folks who make $100,000 or less.
Still, the job of governor will require some hard choices.
Yeah.
Governor Murphy's indicated that between federal funding freezes and outright cuts, the state, which already, I repeat, has the highest business and property taxes in the nation, could lose $27.5 billion. He's already proposing raising taxes by $1 billion.
No, he's right. And so Murphy is probably the only governor in a long time that's given us a surplus as big as it is. But if we begin to change that tax code and pull that money back from the wealthy, we can get more money in that surplus.
But he's also been paying pensions in a way.
Yeah, he's paid the pension. He's done all of that stuff, which is costly. It's costly because people have not paid it in years and they kick the can down the road. But we absolutely cannot, in this moment, allow anybody off the hook. Everybody has to pay their fair share. And if everybody paid their fair share, it would reduce the share that middle class New Jerseyans would have to pay. Because when the wealthy get a break, middle class New Jerseyans pay more. Because if I went to a restaurant with you and you left me in a restaurant after we ordered our food, the people aren't going to say, I'm going to only charge you the bill that you ate. I'm going to charge me both of our bills. You have to pay. So the wealthy
I promise I won't walk out
you can't do that. The wealthy have to pay their fair share.
You've touched on this before, but I want you to dig down a little deeper. In the Mount Laurel decision, as you know, every town is required to provide a fair share of affordable housing. Last year's law to streamline efforts at affordable housing development has hit legal and political obstacles. So what specific plans do you have to address affordable housing? We
need to declare an emergency, affordable housing emergency in the state. Right, that's number one. We need to pass into the Singleton's bill and go further to create zoning over a shadow over the zoning laws, or something that goes above the municipal zoning laws that allow us to build the housing we need to build. The state should take the lead on this and bring local housing advocates together with mayors and council people and the building trades to talk about a housing package where we're building more than the state only builds 3,000 to 5,000 units. We need to be building 20,000 to 30,000 units a year. We need to be figuring out how to do that. And creating a fund, not the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but using the public bank that Murphy began to formulate and get it to the end. Put our money in it as first loss capital, either through pension or tax credits, and get the investment bankers in the private sector to invest 2 to 1, 3 to 1, to create a fund so we can begin investing large scale public works projects and building affordable housing en masse and concentrate on areas where there's transit first.
Transit.
Right.
You have brought up a lot of subjects. I'm going to start with schools. Housing has a major impact on schools. You build more affordable housing, you're going to need more schools, which has been determined to face right now de facto segregation.
Right, six times more. I mean, the sixth most segregated state in the nation.
The Trump administration cut $1.2 billion in education funding, closed the program that funded Head Start and another that helped Jersey farmers provide food to schools and food pantries, and cut off $85 million in pandemic relief. Our schools are the magnet that draw families to New Jersey. How do you shore them up? How do you make them better?
I mean, one, that's why the argument for creating a larger surplus is important. We have to anticipate that the federal government may cut money. The good thing about New Jersey is that we give the federal government more money than we get in return, which means that we're a wealthier state than many states around the nation, which gives us the opportunity to do more than other people can do. We have to change the school funding formula, for one, and not weight it heavily on property tax, begin to weight it more heavily on income. We have to weight it more on English language learners, kids with special needs, and give bonuses to districts that have created opportunity to have diversity in their schools, to pull students and kids from other areas. Building housing is not going to drive your taxes up. It's actually going to drive your taxes down. A lot of these places who are paying heavily on schools is because they've lost students. Take Toms River, for example. They've lost 4,000 students in the last 20 years. They lost students. Building housing actually puts families and children in your schools. Money from the state follows children, which helps lower your taxes because you have more people in your schools. I mean, this argument that you get all these kids, it's going to overrun your district. It's not true. You don't have to build any more schools because you don't have any kids in your schools now, right? So at the end of the day,
Depending on where you live.
Right,
These
depending
are
on
pretty
where-
packed
right.
in Montclair. I'm sure
Oh yeah,
they're packed in Newark.
but the housing requirement in Montclair is not the same as some of these wealthy districts, right?
Right.
And so the housing requirements are different depending on the amount of housing that was built and the amount of affordability that you have. Montclair, thank God, has been building affordable housing over the years, right? And so their obligation is not as great as other municipalities, but the state should lead that anyway.
You mentioned consolidating school districts.
Yes.
We have more school districts than we have
Yes,
schools, it seems.
we have more school districts than cities.
Right.
Right. So we have more superintendents than mayors, and they get paid a lot more better than us too, by the way. But at the end of the day, we have school districts with one school in them. 300 kids, 400 kids. In the end, they got a superintendent, and that doesn't even count the county schools, because the county's got their own schools as well, with a superintendent, with all kinds of folks. And we're paying for this. You're paying for municipal government, county government, state government, city
Does the
schools,
governor
county
have
schools.
the right to change all of that?
Yeah, sure. They definitely, the state government has a lot of power. The Commissioner of Education has authority to begin talking about how to incentivize municipalities to share their services, to bring services together. And plus, we can say, look, we're not funding districts that only have one school in them. You have to have at least an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, period.
Going to health care. NJ Family Care, the program, relied on more than $14 billion in federal funds. That's now in jeopardy.
Yes, it
Trump
is.
administration and Congress are weighing cutting Medicaid that nearly more than 2 million
right.
people rely on
Yep.
Medicaid here. How do you, as governor, fill that gap?
Well, I think at this point, it's time for us to go further. I think the prevailing or conventional wisdom would be to scale back and do all of this other stuff. I think that's the wrong answer. I think the right answer is that we have to figure out how to make New Jersey self-sufficient or independent in terms of its health care, to begin talking about a single payer system or a public option, to figure out how do we put everybody in a boat and take care of the medical costs in New Jersey. And so we have to begin to monitor and cap spending and monitor and cap price growth. Murphy created the Office of Healthcare Accountability and Transparency, right? But it doesn't have any teeth. We have to give it the power to begin to involve itself in the negotiations between hospitals and insurance companies to stabilize those costs, to make sure they're not going through the roof, so we can have pace with that, get pace with that. And if we did reference-based pricing in New Jersey, the monies that we save, we begin to keep that money and put it inside and begin to expand Medicare and Medicaid for residents of this state. We're our own administrator in New Jersey. New Jersey is an administrator. We can do all of these things by law. We just have to financially figure out how we can get it done by not spending all our money with these healthcare institutions, because insurance companies and hospitals are going crazy with the prices, and so arbitrarily, and begin to figure out how to create one medical care system in New Jersey for all of us, for the public sector and the private sector.
New Jersey protects women's health care
Right.
by guaranteeing the right to abortion, to health care
Right.
during pregnancy, and is stockpiling medical abortifactants. Should that law be changed, canceled, enhanced?
Yeah, I think it could be enhanced. I think it should be codified in the Constitution through a public ballot, but I think that we should go further, that we need to begin talking about equity. It's one thing to have the law that allows women to have access to resources, but we have to make sure that everybody has equitable access to those resources. I mean, Senator Ruiz had a bill that talked about creating access in working class communities, poor communities, communities of color, to give people access to these things. So I would go further in order to allow people to, everybody has to have a universal kind of ramp to get us to the resources. And the way we think about it is the same way the Americans with Disabilities Act is. You have to have, when you build, you have to have universal building code that allow access to buildings. You have to have ramps, you have to have all this stuff. And so everything we create has to have an equity ramp, has to have a ramp so that everybody can be able to have access to the resources that we make available.
Speaking of ramps, I'm going to dovetail to transit, transportation, highway infrastructure, over which the state government doesn't have hold a lot of sway, right?
Well, we have sway over New Jersey Transit.
Well, corporate taxes and federal funds pay for highway repair, bridge replacement. Amtrak pays for NJ Transit.
Right, but
So,
well, they share tracks, they share real estate, they share obviously they share infrastructure, right? And so I know because we're building a walking bridge now in Newark, so it's New Jersey Transit, but you got to get permission from Amtrak because the tracks, they own the tracks. New Jersey Transit owns the infrastructure around that, but they own the tracks. So it is complicated, but New Jersey Transit has the ability to expand and to grow without permission from anybody else. Obviously, they need cooperation from other people. That's two different things. But New Jersey Transit can do those things if they had a funding source and they weren't spending their capital dollars on operation costs, right? So we need to have capital infused in the New Jersey Transit so we can expand.
again, taxes, increasing taxes
Well,
on wealthy
there's
people.
money available now to do those things. It's how that money is being spent. New Jersey Transit has money now. It's how is it being spent? Like the Turnpike Authority has money now. How is it being spent? They spend it widening roads. They spend it doing other things, not investing in transit.
Route 80 still has a gigantic hole in it.
Yeah. I mean, there's repairs that need to be done versus us expanding roadways, doing all kinds of other things. Because what we're doing is advancing this idea that more cars are going to be on the road. And when I talk to those guys, I ask them, if you solved for the expansion of rail in New Jersey and expansion of buses, do you think that there's going to be a need to expand these roads if people use cars less? They said that they thought it would. I've been waiting for a study to show me that. They have not shown me a study that says that, because it doesn't seem logical to me that if you advance or expand train or rail and bus lines in New Jersey and you make it reliable and safe and affordable, that people won't want to use that instead of drive up and down the turnpike all day.
I'm thinking about Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, who, when that bridge collapsed on I-95, had it repaired in what, 6 days, something insane like that?
Right.
Could the governor of New Jersey jump to it that fast?
I mean, in terms of repairs, we should be jumping to it that fast. But I think it's really what we're talking about is our vision or outlook for transportation in New Jersey. We're too heavily reliant upon cars and roads as opposed to rail and buses. We need to do that. We're far behind the rest of the world, right? The rest of the world is thinking about how to advance rail. That's why people can move around Europe and move around other places relatively easily and quickly, and why they can reduce carbon emissions faster than we can, because they're relying not just on alternative forms of energy, but also on making sure rail and bus is a chief component of transportation in their community. And we have to do the same thing in New Jersey.
Here's a subject that I know is close to you because there is a prison facility in Newark that ICE is wanting to expand to detain immigrants. How will you ensure protection and due process for immigrants? Well,
the irony is, it wasn't even a prison facility, it's a halfway house. It's a transitional place that people use to come back home. They're turning it into a detention center. They're trying to, and running roughshod all over the city, municipal ordinances, state ordinances. And so we're in federal court now. I think we passed the Immigrant Trust Act. I mean, there are a couple of candidates that are saying they won't do that because they don't think it'll pass. It is this excuse, that excuse, this excuse. I think we do that. We codified it. what it does is codifies the practices that the AG has outlined for us to do anyway right now. That's policy throughout the state of New Jersey.
Will Trump's current investigation of Governor Murphy over his immigration policies have any impact on that?
Absolutely not. I think it's just crazy. I think she's grandstanding, being a cheerleader for MAGA. She know absolutely there's nothing to her investigate. Even though they arrested a judge, this thing is really, really crazy. I think that we have to join the same thing the universities are doing. Universities are forming PACs now because of Harvard. Harvard is leading the way. Who would have thunk that, right? No, but at the end of the way, Harvard is leading the way. They're pulling these universities together. Rutgers is a part of one of these PACs now that are pushing back against these federal policies and are beginning to win. I think states have to do the same thing, that our AGs across the state and governors, whether it's Pritzker or Newsom, governor here, Governor Westmore, have to come together and form PACs, use our collective resource, our collective brain power and will to push back against what's happening federally, right? To set a standard that the states
Do
are
you
not.
see that actually happening?
Yeah. I think the universities are beginning to do that.
I see
I think the states should begin to do the same thing.
A climate that knows no boundaries. Congress cut $217 million in federal funding for 212 projects here in New Jersey that address climate change, along with the jobs they would have created. Those are gone too. Could you resurrect any of those projects without federal help?
Well, you're going to need federal help, especially around the wind, because we need to use their waters, right? That is the thing that is going to stop us. And you need to get the license and permission from them to put the windmills or whatever in their water, the wind turbines in their water. It's not, we can't do it without that. So what we need to do is prepare for the time we can do that. I wouldn't turn away from it, but I think we need to pivot to solar and the batteries as quickly as we can. And this is not a matter of just clean energy for New Jersey. It's a matter of sustainability. We don't have enough energy. Our grid can't, sustain all of the things that we are doing in New Jersey. We're now buying energy from the dirtiest places in the country, right? West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania. We're buying energy from these places, which is driving our costs up. Our costs are too high. Huntington County is having blackouts, and they're going to build these AI data centers, which are going to take a huge amount of power.
The thing is, we don't, in the beautiful Garden State, have the land to build great solar farms because they're all being farmed.
No, we have land. We have land. Plus, we're creative enough to figure out how to, for example, at the Port Authority, the shipping container companies have built giant parking roofs and threw the solar panels up there and are empowering a third or more of their energy through solar there. We have to be creative enough to do that and have the batteries to store the energy in them, so you can't get this excuse, what happens when the sun doesn't shine? Well, we store the energy. So we have to do that. There are I just learned over 70 solar projects at the state right now that are pending since 2022. Right. So 3 years later, we have not been able to move those projects ahead in a crisis situation.
Didn't offshore wind get canceled recently?
Yeah, it got canceled. I mean, once Trump got in office, everybody got weak in the knees, and the amount of money because the amount of money that costs up front to build the infrastructure is expensive in America to build. And so these companies are obviously not putting their full skin in the game. You're going to need support from the federal government, from state government to do that. If that doesn't happen, they're going to back out of those projects. It's the upfront cost. I mean, solar is expensive upfront. It's not as expensive as the other things, but it's expensive upfront as well, which is why we need infrastructure dollars to help us do that.
How do you rate Governor Murphy?
In the first forum, I gave him a B+. I still give him that, and I'll tell you why. I think people are saying all kinds of things about Governor Murphy, but most of the things he's done, nobody else did it. They didn't have the courage or the will to do it. Now, has it been done too late? Yes. So the impact of it is not as big as it should be. The increasing the minimum wage, nobody would do that. He did it, right? So at the end of the day, the minimum wage now, even with minimum wage, you can't afford anything, right? So it doesn't mean anything, right? To fully fund the school funding formula is now old and broken. We couldn't do it in 50, 60 years. So, he funded it, but it has caused all kinds of issues because of that, right? To fund the pensions, hundreds of millions of dollars later, right? And now people are complaining because it costs so much to fund the pensions because they refused to fund it back then.
Brilliant.
But it also raised our credit rating, which allows us to borrow money cheaper. So some of the things that I think are social justice issues around cannabis, around letting people vote who are on probation and parole, right? His stance on 16 and 17-year-olds voting. I think that he's been really progressive on a lot of issues in the state. So I think he could go further, right? And some of the stuff happened a little late. I mean, there's issues that I have around procurement of Black and brown and women businesses, but that's all over the state. Essex County is worse than the state of New Jersey. So, and that's because there's the population in Essex County is majority Black and brown, and less than 0.5% of procurement dollars in Essex County go to Black, brown, and women businesses in this county. In the state is less than 1%, and the county is less than 0.5%, right? It's problematic. So of course there are issues. So I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not running around saying that everything is perfect. But I think that given in comparison to everybody else, he did a lot better than most of these people.
If you win, you'll have 3.5 years to deal with Donald Trump, at least.
Well, I dealt with him for 4 as the mayor of the city of Newark.
Well, what's your plan?
Well, I think we have
Because this is a different administration than the first Trump administration.
It really is. It really is. That's fair. It is extremely different. I mean, we have to treat this like the Game of Thrones. Winter is here, right? So we have to take everything outside and bring it indoors. We have to stabilize our economy. This is the excuse that we use to tell people we cannot subsidize millionaires and billionaires. We can't do it. We need our money. We need our money just in case Donald Trump starts cutting stuff. We need to have the money on hand to pay for the things that are necessary for us. We have to use this as a moment to make democracy a lab, to make the state a lab for democracy in here, to try any and everything, right? From public options to earned income tax credits, expanded earned income tax credits to baby bonds. We need to figure out how to invest in families and put money in people's pockets so they can endure this long winter and then fight like hell, in the midterms to make sure we kick this guy out of there.
Fun fact, it's Republicans' turn. New Jersey has never in the history of the state elected a governor of the same party in succession. It's always been a Democrat, a Republican, so it's a Republican's turn.
I think Murphy broke that curse.
Say that again, that's a good line. Yeah. Why do you think a Democrat can win?
Well, I think the climate in this country is lending itself to Democrats, right? And I think Democrats, because of the last election, realize, hopefully, the error of their ways, or I should say our ways, but of not relying on our base, not going to our base, chasing voters around the country and around the state who have already divorced themselves from the party, right? Not governing or having messaging that responds to the base or responds to people in our community. I mean, all of that has to change. They know it has to change, and we have to get out in the street and work. I don't think the problem with Democrats in New Jersey are Republicans. I think the problem with Democrats in New Jersey are Democrats. And until we realize that and begin to fix our internal problems that we're having, we'll always be chasing this idea. That's why we always, are down saying, oh, we may lose because we may lose.
Because we're Democrats.
We may lose. But listen, you have 800,000 more voters. You have independents that are more inclined to vote with Democrats, right?
So what is it, changing the messaging or actually changing
It's changing
lives?
What we're talking about and who we're talking to, right? So if you are in a state that is blue and you say that the Democrats is the party of working families, but working families are the ones that are struggling in the state of New Jersey, then that's that's a little oxymoron, hypocritical, whatever you want to call it. People don't understand how we're struggling with Democrats in charge of both houses and the governorship, that we can't figure out segregation. We can't figure out the wealth gap. We can't make childcare inexpensive. We can't make healthcare inexpensive. We can't create opportunities for working class families. I mean, we give breaks to corporations and raise fares on the train 15% for working class families, which to some people is the difference between a Christmas gift for their child and their rent. So these are Democrats that are doing this.
Good luck to you. Mayor Ras
Thank you.
Baraka, thank you so
You're
much
very
for
welcome.
being with us.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interviews with Mary Alice Williams. Are you looking to take the next step? Then come on and join the Montclair Dems. We're a statewide organization with a network of more than 12,000 volunteers across New Jersey. Please visit themontclairdems.com to start making an impact today, and thanks again for taking a few minutes to join us.